Okay, so you can see here that the VCSA appliance has taken up 92 gigs on my laptop, which is about 20% of the entire drive for one VM, which is too much. So the easiest way to shrink that down in a lab environment is simply to take a file-based backup of the VCSA and to deploy a new one. So if you already know how to do this, then you can basically stop the video now and go off and do what you need to do. However, if you've never deployed a VCSA onto VMware Workstation, never taken a file-based backup or done a restore, then watch on and this will help you. Okay, so let me bring up our vCenter server. We can see that we're on 10.170. So go to our lab environment, go to the VAMI and log on. I've also got installed on here a FileZilla FTP server. So I'm just going to go that through. So go to my backup tab. Normally in an enterprise environment you'd have a permanent backup source configured with a schedule. Being a lab I don't bother. So on the backup button I'm going to pop in the IP address of my local laptop, the user account details that I created in my FTP application. I'm going to disable the health check for the purposes of this demo just because it saves time, and the start button is now enabled, so it tells me that the backup is going to be 1.2 gigs. The I/O is probably going to make things happen a bit strange on my laptop as soon as I hit start, and the cursor might vanish, and we'll see how we get on. But we're going to start that back up now, and if the performance becomes too bad then I'll just pause the recording. So let's start that going now. So it's going to connect to it's going to go and download, start the backup, start creating those files and start dumping them to here. So let's snap that over there and snap that over there, and we can watch that happen. Didn't like that. Let's try again. Oh, hang on. Let's take that online. That would help. Okay. Right. So now we've got a backup task running. I can expand that, and you can see this path here. I'm just going to copy that path while we're waiting and paste it into Notepad because we're going to be using that later on. Okay, so this is going to take a minute or two to copy all those files across, and I suspect that the I/O might make my computer start playing around, so I'm just going to pause the recording while this backup takes place. Okay, so the backup has finished. As you can see, it took 7 minutes 38 seconds, so it took a fair while, and as suspected my computer started playing up royally and has been a little bit, so we're going to see how we get on with this, but my computer could do with probably a reboot, to be fair. Okay, so let's have a quick look just to make sure what files we've got in that backup. So just open up PowerShell and FTP, open 10.0.1.38. Okay, log in. Okay, so where's that path gone? So we're just going to quickly change to the path that we copied for that backup. So just copy that, right click to paste, enter, and ls command. So you can see we've got a whole bunch of, we've got a JSON file with the backup metadata, and we've got all our tarballs with our data in there, so that's all looking very good and fantastic. Okay, here's where you may have to take a little bit of a leap of faith. If you really are tight for space, now would be the time to delete your old vCenter. Obviously the leap of faith there is that you're hoping your backup was successful, because what we're going to do now is run through installing a new VCSA. But before we can do that, we've got to shut this one down. So no, didn't want to do that. Come on. Joys of working with laptops. Okay, so F12 shutdown restart. shut down. Okay, so that's going to shut down our existing VCSA. So in the meantime, I'm going to find my ISO and use the same version just to be on the same side, and right click that and mount that ISO. My computer really needs a reboot, but I'm in the middle of recording, so I can't. So we're just going to have to put up with it for a little bit. Okay, so we've got our ISO mounted here. If I go into the VCSA folder, you'll see that in here is our OVF. So what I'm going to do is just minimize that, go to File and Open in VMware Workstation, and browse that OVF file and click Open. It's going to pop up a configuration wizard for me, which I'm going to whiz through. So accept the terms of the EULA, click Next, and this is exactly what you do if you were going to just install it for the first time. Click Next. Okay, I'm going to make it super tiny, and once it's deployed I'm going to make it even tinier. But for now we'll just take the defaults. Okay, so I'm going to put some basic information here, 10.0.1.70, which is the same IP address as the old one. If you put your mouse over here, you get a bit of a tooltip. Actually, that's not what I wanted to do in there, so cut that. IPv4. Network word is going to be static. Again, you can get all that from the tooltips at the corner. IP address. Prefix is 24. That's a bit of a suffix rather than a prefix, but anyway. 10.0.1.254. My gateway, and my DNS servers are these on this network anyway, and this is the name for the machine. There are some other tabs here, so I'm going to set the passwords for my SSO and the root. Also, don't be thinking that it goes through to the next page with a wizard each time. It doesn't. You've got to click on each tab and install it separately. So there's nothing in here that I want to set. I'm going to join the CEIP because I'm a good citizen. Don't worry if you can't. Local, and just click import. Okay, so now VMware Workstation is going to import that OVF and create that, and it'll boot it, and it'll boot into a command prompt, well, a login prompt, and then a bit later it'll reboot again, then boot into the VCSA screen that we know. So I'm just going to pause the video now, because it's literally just going to go through this progress bar, and I'll come back to you when the VCSA is installed. Okay, so the VM's been imported now, and it's just going through its first boot sequence. And what we're going to do, it's going to boot up into a normal login prompt that you'd expect from any normal Photon box, and then there's obviously some backup scripts like it is now, and there's some backup scripts going on in the background. Some background scripts running in the background to do some installation. Let's just make that a bit bigger. Okay, not much is going to happen at the front for a few minutes. It's just going to sit like this, doing stuff in the background. Don't try and log into it. As you can see, none of our customizations we put in have taken effect. So in a few minutes, this box will reboot again and come back with all the vSphere services turned on. Okay, as you can see, it's starting to do that now. And boom. Okay, it may take a few more minutes for these to work. So as you can see, it's still putting up messages to standard out here all across the appliance, making it look nice and pretty. If I bring up a browser and look at the VMware interface, let's just, in fact, let's bring up a fresh browser. Probably not going to be ready yet, but let's just have a look. Let's just put that over there. Okay, if you don't ever get this option here, by the way, this is another top tip. If you just click into the space to the side and type "this is unsafe" without any spaces, it will accept the page anyway. So if you don't get that option for whatever reason, sometimes you don't, you can still get through to the page by typing "this is unsafe" without spaces after clicking into an area on the background of the page with the Chrome messages. Okay, so what we're getting here, we may get some more messages saying some stuff is going on in the background still, but we've got our normal login screen that we're used to seeing on the console, but on the VAMI we've still got a kind of things going on in progress, and we're probably going to see some, some RPM installations going to finish here. So I'm just going to watch these through for a minute, and when they're done we'll move on to the next phase. Okay, so after quite some time all our RPMs are installed and the VAMI interface, or the initial getting started wizard of the VAMI interface, is ready to us. So we can click on the restore option. If this is the first time you've done this, obviously you want to go to setup. If you're doing a restore, then you want this one here. So we're going to log into the vCenter server console with our root password. Okay, and that's going to say this wizard allows you to restore a vCenter server. So we're on stage 2 now, so we click next. And we need our path that we copied earlier on. So we copy and paste that in, like so. And we want to put in our credentials and click next, make sure it's all working and is on. It is good. Click next. Okay, it's just reminding us to shut down the original vCenter server, because obviously it's going to bring back the IP address and everything. We've already done that here. There's our new box here, so we don't have to worry about that stuff. We've already taken care of that. So we click finish, and it's just telling me that once you've started this, you can't stop or restore it. If you are unsure, now would be a good point to take a quick snapshot of this VM. Just free restore. Obviously making sure to remember to apply that as soon as you've finished afterwards when you're happy, but always a good idea to save all that work going to waste if it goes wrong. Click OK. Okay, and we've got another progress bar. Okay, so this again is going to take a while, because obviously we're copying all those bundles across from the FTP server to the appliance. And it's extracting those in place, and then it's going to restart all the services on that server to take on the new configuration and the database, remount the database files, and to bring this appliance up as was. So I'm just going to pause the recording again, just to save a lot of boring video. Right, you may notice a small continuity error here in the fact that I'm now wearing glasses and a different jumper. It's actually tomorrow from yesterday. So it was quite late last night and the restore actually failed. And I was going to restore back and do it again, and just to close off the video. And I got this screen, which I've not seen before, which may well lead to an error. But I thought, seeing as it's an interesting development, and not something, if you've already deleted your VCSA, something you want to see. So I'm just going to click through here and see what happens. It says this vCenter server has been restored, however additional steps must be completed before it is available for use. Click the link to continue. I'm not hopeful. I think I'm going to have to do this again, but anyway, we'll see how we get on. So click on that, let's log in. Good old LastPass helped me out here, and this looks very much like it may well be a redo. Let's see how we get on. think the speed with which this progresses will be a bit of an indicator. Starting all the services, well, that could be a while. So we'll just see how this pans out, and I'm not going to watch yet another progress bar, so I'm going to pause the recording and see what happens when we get to the end of this one. Okay, so that's completed now. It says you've successfully set up this vCenter server, complete. Let's have a look and see how we got on. So let's just refresh the VAMI and just see what it looks like from there first. Check all our services are running. As you can tell, I've got full faith in it, having had all those errors, but let's see where we get on. Okay, yeah. API endpoint healthy with warnings. Forgot. Most things look started. I'm not using VCHA. Okie dokie dokie. Right, well, first glance looks alright. Let's just log on to the vCenter and see how we got on. See what's in there. See if it's still got all our database and other things. Okay, vSphere client loading, drum roll. Okay, it's got the right name, that's good. It's got the demo DC. Don't worry about the host because they're all powered off. Okay. It looks alright. It looks alright. Looks like it's got our stuff in here. Let's just quickly go in here and see what we've got as a new size. Sorry, that's the old one. That's the new one. Okay, so we've gone down from 92 gig down to 40 gig. Actually, my other one had a snapshot, so we actually went from 77 gig down to 40 gig, but we've still saved 37 gig on the size of the disk. So full disclosure, yeah, I hadn't spotted a snapshot, and I got rid of that earlier on before remembering that I was showing you the delta. However, still 30 gigs less is not to be sniffed at. So we've saved that on the disk, and we've got our vCenter server back. So if that had been a production one, I'd be a little bit nervous with running with this because of obviously all the errors that we had on the go, but it's perfectly acceptable for my lab environment, and that's what effectively we're talking about. So right, so to shrink down your VCSA, you can use the backup and restore function. It shrinks it down pretty well, and if you've never done it before, that's how you install a VCSA server onto VMware Workstation. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again in another video. Cheers, take care, bye.